Hi everyone and welcome to Triple M Adventures with Bill. This video is to help you set a delta model up in your RadioMaster TX12. So let's switch over to the radio and I will show you how to do this. Now let's go to our TX12 and set up a delta wing. We're going to hit the model button and we're going to scroll down to the spare slot. There we go. We're going to push the enter key and say create. Now we're going to go to Delta. Has it got an engine? And we're going to push page right. Yes. We're going to use the assign the channels as the defaults. Okay, so the ailerons channels are on channel 1 and 2. I think we're good to go with that. Have you got a rudder? We're going to say no. There we go, long press. So it's as simple as that to set the model up. Now we are going to go and let's just give this a name. So we push enter. Whoops, I made a mistake. So let's just go back round again. Hold the key down to get capital. And then E. Delta. There we go. And we push return. Now let's set up a timer. We're going to go down to the timer 1, click, and we're going to choose THS and click enter. Now this means that the timer will stop if we shut the throttle off and bring it into the back position. So if we were flying a glider and it's a thermal, we'd stop the motor, we'd be able to stay up a lot longer because the timer will only tell us when the battery has been the motor has been drawing current from the battery. Now we move over and we're going to set this up, let's say for argument's sake 5 minutes. You'd have to test this with your batteries, fly a few packs and then test the voltage after so many minutes so that you could get the longest flight possible, which is what I normally try and do. Then we are going to go click enter and go down and we're going to hit persist and we're going to just put flight there and then we're going to click I want a minute countdown and then I'd like that to be voice, so it is on voice. Normally this would be on silent, but I'm going to choose voice. And there we go, that's the timer set up. Now let's take a look at the flight modes. We're going to push our page right until we go to flight modes. Now I've already typed these in to save some time. So flight mode 0 is armed, flight mode 1 is disarmed, and flight mode 2 is disarmed too. That's because I have the armed switch on a 3-position switch. I've just done that for safety. So you just need to type those in, but we need to add, if we move down to flight mode 1 and then click enter, we need to pick a switch, which in my case is the switch E here. So I'm going to go down and then come into the middle position for this line for flight mode 1, push return. Then I'm going to go into flight mode 2 and I'm going to click the enter button again, and this time it will be switch SE in the back position. So now we've set up our flight modes. Now let's move on to the special functions, which again I've already typed in. So you can see I've got on the first special function, when the switch is forward, disarmed, armed. It says armed, and then the second special function is disarmed, and then I set up the reset button, and you can see we've had to go through and set the timer up and make sure that this box is checked so that it is actually working. Now let's move on to the safe throttle. I'm going to show you how to set up a safe throttle. Now with a safe throttle, this stops you from accidentally arming your model and maybe causing some problems. Now with a gas motor in the olden days, then this wouldn't have been a problem because you would have to physically go and start it up and then it would tick over and run. But with electric motors, they will instantly come on as soon as you flick a switch. This will stop hopefully you having any accidents. So please test this thoroughly before you test your model. We first need to go to curves. Now that will mean going back, and we're going to set up curve 1, push enter, and I'm going to click enter again, and we're going to call this cut, Okay, now we move down and we want to change that. We can just set this to 2 points and then we move over and we can now hit enter. So I've scrolled over to the box there and I'm going to push enter and I'm going to drag that down to the bottom, so -100. Then I'm going to move across to the next block, push box and push enter, and then I'm going to scroll that down and push enter. Now that is the curve set up, and you can see x equals +100, y equals -100. So we can push return and come back out. Now we need to move on to the logical switches. So we're going to logical switches, and in logical switch 1, we are going to put, here we need to push enter, and this is A is smaller than X. Okay, V1 is going to be the throttle stick. Now this has to be the throttle stick, not the input. I use the throttle stick. There we go. And then 2 has to be -98. There we go, push enter. And we don't need to put anything in the last 3 options, so we can push return. On the next line, we need to select, push enter quickly, and we're going to this time select OR. And in V1, variable 1, we're going to put logical switch 1. Logical switch 1. And then in the V2 line variable 2, this will be logical switch 2. Logical switch 2. Then we are going to assign this to the armed switch, which needs to be in the armed position. So we click the enter button and then we put our switch, whichever switch you've chosen, put it into armed. Then we're going to put a delay on this of 0.5 of a second, which I will show you why we do that a bit later. Okay, now we can push enter. We should have done everything on our logical switches. The final stage of setting up the safe throttle is to go back to our inputs. So we now have to make adjustments on our throttle. Now in the first line, we're going to hold the enter button down and click pick enter. And we're then going to go down to, okay, the weight is correct at 100. But we're going to have to select a logical switch in the switch section. So we're going to go logical switches. And this should be 2. Yes, that should be 2. Okay, and then we can return, come back out again. Now we have to duplicate that line. Now the way you do this is hold the enter key down and say insert after, and we will go straight into the edit window. So we will go down, and with the source, you could put a name in if you want to, but I'm not going to do that. The source is the throttle gimbal, that's correct. The weight will be 100. We then have to go to the curve and push enter and change that to custom. Push enter, go across, and then we're going to pick up the cut curve that we set up earlier. There we go. And now we need to pick the switch, and it's going to be logical switches, but this time it has to be an exclamation mark before the stick, before the logical switch. Now this means it means not that switch, that logical switch. So we are going to have to go up until we get logical switch 2, that one there. Okay, now we should be good to go, so we can push enter. Now let's test this and see if it's working. We are going to hit the page button until we come to our display that shows us our stick. So you can see my ailerons working there. you can see the throttle is working because it's armed. So let's disarm.
Disarmed.
Okay, the throttle did disarm. If we turn back on again, it shouldn't work. You see, because we haven't come down. Now that's where we put the 0.5 delay in. So if I quickly go down, the throttle's not working. If I quickly go down, the throttle's not working. I have to go down that and stay there for at least 0.5 of a second, and now my throttle will start working again. But the minute I disarm, the motor will disarm. Now let's take a look at my demonstration rig so you can see what problem I come across, and I will show you how to correct this. Now let's take a look and see if everything's working okay. If we go to, you can see the ailerons are working as the elevator stick is working as ailerons, and our ailerons are acting as elevators. So we need to change this. Now this is due to the way your servos are installed. So what we need to do is, if we hit our model button and we go across to, we mustn't do any adjustments in the inputs, otherwise our trims won't work correctly. So we're going to go to the mixes. Now in here, we need to adjust if we have a look at the elevator, if I use the elevator, now this is channel 1, you can see channel 2 is working correctly, but channel 1 is not. So that means we need to reverse the elevator on channel 1. So if we push enter and then go down, so we're going to change that to a minus 50. Right, now we can test this before we push enter. There we go, they're working correctly. And that's good, so we can now push enter. Now so now we've got our elevators working correctly. Now the problem is the ailerons. Now I'm banking right, so the channel 1 is working correctly because it's going down, but channel 2 is not. It should be going up. So channel 2 aileron, therefore we need to reverse. So if I go there and edit, and we change that to a minus, we should be good to go. Let's have a look. Okay, elevator, there we go, bank right, bank left. So all we needed to do was just to have a look at what our channels were doing and then adjust just the weights accordingly. So in the end, we've had to have two minus 50s on channel 1, and then on channel 2 only 1 minus 50. So there we go. As you can see, it's working. So it's not difficult to put that right. You just have to work through it logically, and you will get your control surfaces working in the correct sense. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you really enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below, because I'd love to hear from you. And please share this video with your friends, and please consider becoming a patron of my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Happy flying. Bye for now. Bye bye.